Hey guys, it's Emma. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to share a little update with you about what's been going on in the garden. We have been hard at work getting it all together and I'm happy with where we are at. We still have a bit more to do before everything is in the ground. For those of you who are new here, I'm a mom to identical twin boys who are 18 months old. I'm a trained Montessori teacher and I love to bring Montessori, motherhood, and homemaking together. On my channel, I share about things that are going on in our home, and I'm excited to share our garden with you today. This year, my husband and I thought it would be fun to have a garden, and so we got to planning this big garden at my in-laws' house, which is just a few minutes up the road. And one of my sisters, if you've been around here for a little while, you maybe have heard me talk about her, is a flower farmer, and I've gained just so much information from them in this whole process. We were really intrigued by the no-dig gardening method that we heard about from Charles Dowding. Make sure to check him out on YouTube if that's something you are interested in. We actually brought in compost to kind of create the beds and built that up on top of the soil as a way to not have to till the soil every year and kind of affect that good microbiome that is within the soil. So that's what we've done, and we built up these kind of raised beds that we will actually be coming back over with a weed fabric to cover. Initially, our plan was we were going to lay cardboard over the whole thing and then do the compost and mulch between. But we kind of, through doing some more research and learning from other people and what has been working for them, we decided to just lay the compost first and then go over it with a weed fabric and not do any mulching between. And this, I think, will really help cut down on the time we are weeding and hopefully just create a really clean and effective garden. So I was a little disappointed that we wouldn't have that beautiful contrast of like the dark dirt and some beautiful golden mulch, but I've moved past that and we are moving forward with this new plan for the garden. So the first step was just getting these beds made. So we made a whole day of it. There were some other family members at the house and we had lots of little ones to help us dig and shovel and rake, and we got it accomplished. So my husband built up this wooden frame to just give us kind of a template. These beds are 4 feet wide and 26 feet long. And then between each bed, we have a little over 2 feet of a pathway between them for walking. I found this adorable miniature wheelbarrow at Costco a few weeks ago, and it was just perfect. After a few times of watching my husband fill the wheelbarrow and move it, my son figured out exactly how to use it and just loved this opportunity for maximum effort. So just a reminder, if you have a little one, finding activities and tasks that require a lot of effort from them is something that they thrive on. Through this whole process of building a garden, planning it out, doing all of the things to get to this point, it was definitely a lot harder than I maybe thought. I think in my head, this idea of like, oh, let's do a garden, that sounds fun. And then when you're actually executing all of those plans, it takes a lot of communication and a lot of intentional planning to get the next step completed and have all of the tools and equipment and supplies that you need to do that. And I think my husband and I have really grown in this new adventure, and there's been a lot of good opportunities to improve and work on communication. I've found that we make a really good team. So this is the weed fabric that I was talking about. I will link what we've used in the description box below. It's a really heavy duty weed fabric. They say it's supposed to last for like 10 years. We hope to be able to use this year after year, but you stake it into the ground. We got these 12-inch landscape staples. We lined both the pathways and the beds with this weed fabric. The fabric that we got was 4 feet wide, and so it was the exact width of the beds, which made it really nice, and then has even these lines that help with the spacing for planting, which is what this is. This is a spacing guide. With this fabric, you actually need to burn holes into it, and that will melt this fabric and seal it back up so it doesn't fray as you go. This template is something my brother-in-law made to help them as they have their planting for flower spacing, for fresh cut flowers. And it just helps also to have really clear spacing. And right now, this is how we are burning holes for potatoes. And we're going to dig trenches into these and then plant some potatoes. So I'm really excited about these potatoes. I got 1 5-pound bag of, I think, just russet potatoes, if I remember correctly. 1 5-pound bag of these seed potatoes says it will produce between 50 and 65 pounds of potatoes at the end of the season. And that just blows my mind. So I'm really excited to dig these up at the end of the season. To do that, we will probably just pull up this weed fabric and dig them up that way. The next thing we had to think through was support for our tomatoes and cucumbers. We made this trellis with T-posts, 2-inch PVC connectors, and then 1/2-inch conduit. In a little bit, you'll see how when I'm planting in this bed, I will plant a string with them and then run that string up to the top of this trellis and tie it to the conduit. And then as the plant grows, I can just tie the plant to that string as a support to really help it to grow vertical. We can use a lot more space in the bed to plant because our tomatoes will be up off of the ground and we'll get really good airflow, and I think it will just be a really good system. In my third garden bed, this is going to be the fresh cut flowers, and so here I am planting dahlia tubers. I got these from a friend of mine, which I just feel so blessed to have received, and I'm so excited for these flowers to be in bloom later this summer. They seem so delicate and fragile, and they're just some of the most beautiful flowers in a bouquet. If you don't know what a dahlia looks like, go look up a picture of them. They are just these beautiful, large, colorful blooms, and I don't even know exactly what all of these will look like. I just chose kind of one variety of each one that she had, and I'm excited to see what comes up. There's even 2 of them that are unknown, so we will just see what comes up out of the ground. I'm super excited. Before they come up out of the ground, you actually don't water them because it's a tuber that you are planting, and so you want them to not rot underground. And so I burned a little bit bigger holes here. We're gonna have to just see how these do like this. I might need to make a little bit more room for them as they are coming up, but we will see. Once everything's coming up, I will have to do a garden tour of what's growing, but next to the dahlias, I was planting a variety of cosmos, and then you can see to the right, I was planting a lot more varieties. So I planted a lot of zinnias and calendula and all sorts of other fresh cut flowers for bouquets. So this whole garden bed will be flowers. And here I'm burning holes to do sunflowers. And all of these ones that will be this close together will be just single stem sunflowers. So I'm only going to plant actually the first 2 rows, and then I'll successively plant them throughout the season so that I have a continual harvest. And then in these 3 holes here, those are going to be branching sunflowers, so they'll be a little bit bigger, bushier, and they'll send out a lot of sunflower blooms for bouquets. And so I'm just so excited to have fresh cut flowers this summer. You can see that I got a little bit of sun on this day being out in the garden. The boys gave me a great gift of napping for about 3 hours at my in-laws, and I got so much planted. Later that evening, it was just a beautiful evening, and I decided to come back and transplant some of my tomatoes into the garden. So I had to just make these holes a little bit bigger so that I could fit my transplant in them. All of those little holes you see on the back, I planted that whole row of red onions, and in the bed behind, I actually planted a ton of yellow onions. So I'm really excited about those as well. We got this amazing little auger that attaches to our drill, and it helps to dig holes. And so that made the process a lot faster. It was a little bit messier, but actually with this weed fabric, you'll see at the end, I'm able to just use a leaf blower to blow off all of the dirt, and it just makes gardening really clean. I feel like it is almost cheating with not having to weed and how clean it will be. This was a really fun evening of just getting things in the ground. My husband, what's funny, he was telling me, he's like, it's really hard to imagine what this will look like with plants in it, because we've been looking at it for weeks and it's just been a fence and then dirt and then this fabric and tubing for our irrigation system, and we haven't had any plants in it yet. And so it was really fun to get these things planted. For the first few, I forgot to plant this rope with them. This again is what we will be trellising our tomato plants to. And so I'm just planting it in with the plant and then running it up to the top of that metal conduit. Then as the plant grows, we will just tie little strings to this bigger string holding the stem of the plant to this string, trellising it more vertically. And this really is just going to help free up a lot of this bottom space so that we can plant a lot closer together, and we'll prune it pretty heavily so that we keep really good airflow through there and really just maximize this planting space. So again, I've never really done this before, but I've talked to many people who have, and this was a recommended strategy for trellising tomatoes and then cucumbers, and then at the end of the bed I'm going to do sugar snap peas. If there is something that you want to learn how to do, I just encourage you to start doing it. This is not something I have ever done before. It can be a little intimidating doing new things, but as you're on the journey, we can learn as we go, we'll problem solve as we go, and we're never going to be able to do something new and know exactly how to do it. And I just think that this garden is a desire I have had for many, many years, and I'm excited that we are just doing it this year, not because life is simple and easy and we have all the time to do it, not because my children are at the ages that they don't need a lot of support and all of that, but just because there's no better time than now to start something that you've wanted to do. And I just have to remind myself that when I'm taking on these new projects and these new things, that these are things that we are actually doing as a family, and they are modeling to my children too about hard work and learning new things and developing new skills. And I want to do this for my whole lifetime. I want to continue to be a lifelong learner, and I want my children to see that as well. And so that's really why I'm loving this whole adventure of being a gardener. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me in my garden. I will see you back here in a few weeks to check up on how everything is growing and coming along. I'd love if you would subscribe to my channel if you find anything here valuable. I create one new video every Friday, and it relates to Montessori, motherhood, homemaking, and anything in between. So I would love to have you part of this community here, and let me know in the comments if there's something that you'd like to see more of. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.